Are you tired of incorrect guidebooks that tell you everything besides what you actually need to know? Well, then you came to the right place. Or at least the mistake you made by clicking on this video was right for you after all. Hello, my name is Caroline.
And I'm Maria.
Welcome to this video where we're going to tell you a little about differences, cons and pros about traveling in Japan as an exchange student and as a tourist.
We will also tell you a bit about what to bring before your trip, either as an exchange student or a tourist, and good tips to make your traveling much easier.
I'm going to tell you about the exchange student parts because I've been an exchange student myself for 11 months, so I bring the knowledge to you. Sounds like a bad commercial, right?
And I'm gonna tell about the tourist part, as I've only been in Japan as a tourist, so I know from experience what you should prepare for as a tourist when traveling to Japan. Now, I've only been in Japan with Caroline on vacation and not a Japanese person, and yeah, not any other person, so just keep it in mind. And also, this is just our opinions and experiences, so there may be other opinions, and yeah, just keep it in mind.
Just don't judge us, okay? Please? To be an exchange student gives you an incredible insight on the culture and the country in itself. You really get to dig your fingers inside of the interest you may hold for Japan. You better have an interest for Japan if you're deciding to actually exchange there. That's pretty logical, right?
As a tourist, you decide what to both see and do without any restraints. Of course, besides the screaming and begging to stop the charger, which comes from your wallet. And you yourself decide where to live and what to eat, and basically you rule over the trip yourself. Being a tourist is also cheaper, and you decide how long you're going to stay, and you don't have to go to school if you're not fond of that.
You don't get to decide for yourself, and you have to be completely dependent on others. It is really expensive, and it can be mentally exhausting.
And now the disadvantages of being a tourist. You don't really get to see Japan from the commoner side, and when you're a tourist you're often only showed what the other tourists have seen, like the usual attractions like Tokyo Tower, Ueno Zoo and Shibuya Crossing, and you may not experience the small cozy streets with all the small shops and hidden amazing restaurants. So as a tourist you don't really get a proper insight of the Japanese lifestyle since you're alone. Unless you're traveling with a Japanese person or someone who actually lives in Tokyo themselves. And actually on our trip to Japan we met up with Caroline's host sister, and she showed us around the smaller streets of Shibuya, which we definitely wouldn't have come across or experienced if she wasn't there.
So depending on how long you decide to stay in Japan, my job right now is to prepare luggage with you. So if you're thinking to stay for around 1 year, you're probably thinking that you should bring your whole wardrobe, but you couldn't be more wrong. Schools in Japan have something called already prepared beforehand funeral looking like same look as others everyday style clothes, aka a uniform. 90% of the time you're gonna walk around in your uniforms, so the unofficial total amount of clothes you have to bring is around 3 sets. Yes, you heard right, 3 sets of clothes. Of course you could also survive with only 2 sets, but I was trying to not give you a heart attack so early in the video. So, of course those 3 sets of clothes exclude smart clothes and some sort of formal wear you'll probably need at some point during your stay. Shoes is of course an important part of the day in Japan too. You have to bring warm shoes, summer shoes, and that should basically be it. Now that we got most of that covered, then there's the other necessities you decide for yourself to bring. Toothbrush, underwear, socks, pictures to remember your annoying family by, your favorite plushie, all of that. A very important thing you'll have to bring is an at least basic understanding of the Japanese language, as well as being able to read hiragana and katakana. If you look like a goldfish and can't breathe because you don't know where to start on learning your new goals for Japan, then comment down below and I will consider making a video where I'll teach you the most useful phrases and basic Japanese as well as writing. I will 100% recommend that you don't bring that much besides the absolute basic and a very big suitcase, because shoot or do that, you will need the extra space when going home. A thing that is best to leave at home is your expectations. because you can end up being very disappointed. So not expecting anything will only make it better in some areas. Now that we're on the topic of host families, then we might as well take it a bit further. When coming to Japan, you'll be suffering from a not so rare condition, or not so rare for me at least, called confusion. And trust me, it's totally normal. Later on, that will change into another deadly disease that is called homesickness, which depending on your personality and needs will hit you at around month 3 to 4. So let me see. Things you should do before coming to Japan is 1. Gather as much knowledge as you can about the culture, but again be aware that it may be different from place to place, but it's fun to get surprised, right? 2. Look up if your taste buds would be able to survive in Japan, because if you don't like miso soup or fish, or dare even try and mention it, rice, if you don't like rice, then what are you, unholy being? Then you have a teeny tiny little problem if your host family isn't understanding of your dislikes of food. So let's hope they are. 3. Getting comfortable with the knowledge about the maybe different religion, depending of course from where you come from. So the water, my pupples, I almost forgot to tell you about the water. Depending on where you come from, the water in Japan may be different. Not poison, just different. I experienced that in the start of my stay, I had to pee more often and weren't able to hold myself as much as I used to. So my dear pupples, if you need to pee, then don't ignore it. Go to the God-given toilet and do your business, because if you don't, it will be too late and you're gonna regret it.
I experienced it too.
And me.
Now, there are a few things that are good to know before traveling as a tourist as well. One of the most important things are that most Japanese people do not speak English. In the bigger and more well-known stores or shopping centers like Shibuya 109, the workers will approach you and will speak to you in Japanese, even if you don't look like a Japanese speaking person. And it's kind of awkward when you're trying to communicate through hand signs, broken Japanese and English. So to avoid this awkwardness, it's good to know basic Japanese sentences and words. And luckily Caroline speaks Japanese now, so she was usually the one speaking on our trip, and I kind of made her do it too. And if I had been alone, I would have been kind of screwed. Like, I know very, very basic sentences. I don't know how to ask where the toilet or hotel is.
So screwed.
Yeah. And I can introduce myself in Japanese, but I'm not able to hold an entire conversation. So thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And also, it's good to know that you shouldn't speak loudly on the metro, and always let the elder man and woman in beside yourself when going into the metro and basically everywhere. And just be a good foreigner, and the Japanese people will respect you, and you should respect the Japanese people as well. Before traveling, there are a few things I would recommend you bring before you travel. And one thing is, bring a big suitcase if you love shopping like I do. I personally love Japanese style clothing with all the pastel colors and the bows. Even if it doesn't fit me, because I'm a tall as foreigner that are at least 3 heads taller than the Japanese people. And I see myself as a normal sized European. But yeah, this is actually also good information. It might be a tad difficult to find clothes that will fit you if you're of a bigger size, and this is not meant in a bad or negative way. But if it's a Japanese brand store, they usually only sell one size or 3 size clothing that will only fit the average Japanese man or woman. And I'm taller than the average height of a Japanese man, so yeah, it was a bit difficult. But of course they do have stores that sell different size clothing, but they're usually the more well-known stores like H&M and Forever 21, which you probably already have in your own country.
We do.
So yeah, so there's probably not any point in getting it in Japan if it's the same kind of clothing. Again, this is just our experiences, and we may just have been unlucky with the clothing and may just have picked the clothing that actually just didn't fit us, but it's just for your own knowledge.
We're normally unlucky, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Before you travel, I will recommend 2 specific things to do. One is order a portable Wi-Fi. because this will become so handy when you can't live without the internet or if you're lost on your vacation. We didn't actually order a portable Wi-Fi, but we did talk about it before we traveled. But we were lucky enough to have one in the room we rented, which we were allowed to use on our travel. And it was very handy to us for every time we got lost, and it's especially handy when it comes to finding the right subway station and train, which leads me to the next thing you should do. Download a subway navigation app over Tokyo Metro if it's Tokyo you're going to. Because, oh god, did this app save our asses or what? When you first arrive in Tokyo, the subway station is a bit difficult to figure out. You've probably already seen the many videos and heard a lot of comments about the Japanese subway station. But don't worry, you'll get a hang of it quickly. It's not as difficult as it seems, trust me.
Very easy.
Yeah, and this app shows you which train to take and what color the train company thingy has, because all of it is color-coded or color-coordinated. And it will also tell you how long it will take you to reach your final destination. And we use either this app or Google Maps every time we traveled, and we mainly traveled by train on our trip, so yeah.
Buses are just, we're not going there.
No, and our taxis not too expensive. So this app is called Tokyo Rail Map, and it's the app I just talked about. Here you see all the metros and stations that they have in Tokyo. So we click on this button, and then it says start station and end station. And let's say we travel from Hatagaya station, and we are going to Harajuku. And then you just click on the route button, and then it on the map shows you how long there is. And down here it says the travel time, how many stations there are, and how many transfers, and the distance. And down here you can see how it's color coordinated by the company, and how many stations there are, and what the name of the stations are. And then you can see that you're going to transfer at Shinjuku station. So it's very easy to use, so that's not gonna be a problem. When you have arrived in Japan, I definitely recommend getting a Suica card. A Suica card is a train card where you insert money on the card by a machine that kind of looks like an ATM machine. Let's say you insert 1,000 yen on the machine, and then you use the card on the train station, and by doing that you have paid for the train ride. And most of the Japanese people actually use the Suica card, and it's just so easy and convenient to use, so definitely get it. You can get this at the metro at the airport, and it's just so easy to use. So instead of paying for a ticket every time you travel by this,
You just beep it and then
in the metro, and then you pay for it. So easy. There are a few more basic things that are good to know before you travel. The first one is that it's very difficult to find a trash can in Japan. They are a very, very clean country, so keep your trash to yourself and don't be a dirty foreigner.
But you should think that there isn't any trash cans at all.
No.
They don't have that system.
No. And also the second thing is, it's a good idea not to be a loud foreigner either, because Japanese people are very silent people. So don't be a loud foreigner either. And the third thing is that they don't accept tips. It's always good to know, I think. And the last thing is that bring your own hand towel, because at common restrooms they don't have hand dryers or paper towels to dry your hands when you've used the restroom. So bring your own stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
We haven't covered everything about it, but we've talked about the subjects that we think are important and that could be very useful for you, and just basic knowledge when traveling to the amazing country of Japan.
Dun dun dun! So if you have any more questions, or if you want us to make a part 2 because we haven't covered everything, then comment down below and we'll see what we can do.
Thanks for watching!
Cha-chan! Jane! Mata ne! Mata imashouka!
That was a bit too far, but okay.
ごめんなさい。
Cut!